notice that it seems like it takes a few seconds before the stream actually kicks in. So then my first part of talking doesn't actually show up. So this is probably just rambling that actually won't even be on the video. So I won't really say the important stuff quite yet. And just go show a view of where I'm going before I start. Show you the lay of the land. What's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you. Happy Blue Friday. And Lori's always here. Good morning, Lori. And Bradley Brady fan, a person, Joel Diaz, Paydirt Sports Cards. Good morning, Tyler Green, 1982. Wants to know who's the quarterback. Wouldn't we all like to know? Wouldn't we all like to know? Hold on a second. I realize I got to take my notifications off or else a phone call will kill this. There we go. All right. Yeah, Stowe 99 Javier wants to says, hey, what about that trade, Devontae Adams to the Raiders? It's just been, let's see, where do I start? It's been a very strange week. Not just in the NFL, obviously been taking a lot of time to talk about the NFL, but just in other things, just even in my own life that's non-NFL related. So we'll talk about a bunch of different things. I actually want to start with one thing I was talking a lot about, but haven't talked about recently. Just a quick update on my dad. I haven't talked about him as much, really, because there hasn't been much to talk about. My dad, Bert, as you know, we went through that terrible time when he was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Couldn't see him and could only talk to him via the phone, and was kept wondering what the outcome would be. You know, he's been home for, it's been, let's say, over a month now. But he's doing great. He's been progressing every day. He's really pretty much back to normal. He's walking around completely without, walkers or wheelchairs. He's been driving, going around, to places now. And him and my mom had actually come to my daughter's local tournament on Sunday, which is close to their house, so it's a nice little warm up. And then next week when we go to Spokane, the plan is for them to come along to watch that 3-day one and then spend time with my sister's family who lives up there. So for those of you who are wondering, my dad is doing really good. I can't be more grateful for the fact that things have worked out the way they did, especially when we found out after my dad was released. A good friend of his, really of the family, the day he came out from the hospital, then almost the same day, his friend Juan Paraiso went into the hospital for a very similar thing, but he was doing better than my dad was. He was up and about at the hospital, but something happened. He got breathing issues, and then he had to be put on a ventilator, and he never recovered. So he passed away like 3 weeks later, and they just had a memorial service for him on Sunday this last weekend. So that was very emotional for my parents, especially. They've been friends and been knowing each other since the 70s. That's how long our families have known each other. So it was a long, long time. So it's very sad what happened there. You just never know. That's why you gotta try to appreciate every moment that you guys have. 'Cause you never know when how many more you have left. So this week, this is more personal stuff, but it's just been I've been very frustrated with people doing business that I've had to engage in. It started, of course, with the Microsoft thing. Microsoft really failed me on the whole hacking thing. The only thing I can say now is I'm glad it seems to be done, that the hacking credit card fraud stuff is no longer going on. So at least that part has been stopped. My Microsoft office account seems to be fine, so my work-related stuff is fine, and I was able to get my Xbox gamer tag and everything reset, and so I was able to basically get back to where I could do things again. But in the process, I basically just had to let that old account go and everything that was attached to it. So literally it's like I had to start completely from scratch, which is not a big deal because I'm not like one of those serious gamers who have all this stuff saved and spend all kinds of money on building up things. And so since I'm a pretty casual player and I was planning to start over with, GTA and Madden, which I already played the franchise. Next, Madden 23 is going to be out anyway. So it wasn't a big deal for me. So if I'd been anybody else, if I'd been a hardcore gamer, I would have been devastated. Because essentially I had to blow away my old account. Because the person who hacked me still has it. It's just under a different name, different password. So anybody who's connected to me on Xbox is still friends with my old account, which is the hacker's account. So I've had to remind people. In fact, I'm going to make sure people know that tonight, so that when we do our little Madden Championship game, he's not going to end up trying to, it's your boy X doesn't try playing the hacker. Wouldn't that be funny? Anyway, but so Microsoft did nothing really to solve my situation. So they really never followed through with what they were supposed to do. So I'm very disappointed in Microsoft for that. What sucks though is I can't even not make some kind of personal stand. Like, that's it, I'm going to boycott Microsoft products because too entrenched in it. What am I going to do? Not stop using Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office? Stuff is too interdependent and twined with other companies. You really can't not use it. So, and then I could switch to a PlayStation, I suppose, but lucky to get my hands on one at this stage of the game. So I'm kind of stuck with having to be pissed about the way Microsoft handled this whole thing and then not really being able to do much about it. It's just frustrating. So then on another level, last week, my dryer, with the washer and dryer set, this GE dryer that I had, it's amazing actually that it's lasted this long. It's the original dryer that I got with our house, which we got in 2003. So we've been in this house, what is it now? Almost 20 years, 19 years, right? And this dryer still works fine. The problem is it's got one of those to start and stop, got that kind of bubble, kind of push button thing, right? It's not a switch, it's an actual plastic bubble that when you push down on it, it kind of sinks in and hits the little button underneath. Well, a couple of years ago, that button got so worn out because, you see it all the time with certain things, devices that you keep pushing it. Eventually that plastic button collapses in and starts to fall apart. Well, it stopped working. And instead of just replacing the whole thing, I actually opened up the portion that has the buttons on it and reveals this board underneath. And what had happened, the little contact switch that the plastic thing pushes, this little plastic little teeny lever that when it sinks in, it pushes on the actual button to make it start. So with a little super glue and a little bit of spit and other little things, I was able to fix that little switch, and it lasted a couple more years. Well, then it stopped working again. It broke again on another part. So this whole switch has been Frankenstein together. So I tried to go in there to do surgery number 2. Well, it didn't work out so good. Well, actually, no, it did. Temporarily worked out for about 2 weeks, and then it stopped working again. So I had to go in. I'm going, man, this thing's really starting to go south on me. But I thought if I fixed it twice, I can fix it a third time. So the thing came off. So I tried to get some super glue and glue this thing in place, and I think what happened is the super glue got into the actual button itself, and then the button got all hardened and messed up, so now the button doesn't work at all. And this happened right before our tournament this past weekend. So I was trying to, there's nothing worse than there's never a good time. There's never a good time for any of your laundry items going out because you use it all the time. Of course, my wife is like ready to just get a new one. I was like, wait. So I started looking at it. I thought, okay, I can't fix this. It's not working. I spent hours and hours trying to get it done. So being the stubborn guy that I am, the cheap guy that I am, I thought, okay, I'll just, I started looking online for the actual entire board piece. Because I knew this, it's only the switch. You know, it's not like the motor stopped working or anything, but I wanted to give it one last try. And I found one on eBay. The whole switch, the whole mechanism, the whole circuit board that goes on top. I could just swap the thing out, replug the wires. It should work if this board is intact. So I ordered it from this dude on eBay, $50. I thought, okay, better rather than spend $800 or whatever it would cost to get a new dryer, I'll replace it with this board that matched up exactly. That's great. So I ordered it. I thought, okay, if I get it, ordered in time before we leave, at least that'll be a few days that we're gone. The process, who knows? Maybe we'll get here sooner than later. So it said that it could arrive anywhere from the 17th to the 22nd. Well, today's already the 18th. So I was hoping I could, if I ordered it soon enough, it could come early, be here by yesterday. Well, I messaged the guy after I came back. I kept checking, and I asked him, is there any way you could send it sooner? That'd be much appreciated. Monday, he says, I'll send it today. So I'm looking for checking my order status, waiting for that thing to say shipped. Monday comes, no shipped. Tuesday, not shipped. There's not even a tracking number. Finally, I think Wednesday, a tracking number is assigned, but it hasn't been actually processed yet. Finally, this morning it says, shipment is ready for processing or shipment. So this guy never sent it out when he said he was going to. It hasn't even really officially shipped yet. It just has a number attached. And it said the latest is supposed to arrive on the 22nd, which is Tuesday, which is a long time because I really was hoping to be before the weekend. But so I messaged the guy after that and said, did you send it yet? He never did reply back. I just saw this tracking number get assigned. But I don't even know if it's going to get there by the 22nd now, the way it's going. And my point being, and rambling about this, is just, if you're going to do something, and you say you're going to do something, you just got to do it, especially if it comes to business. He says, I will ship it out today. That was Monday. It's 5 days ago. And it still hasn't shipped out. And, I even sent a message saying, hey, man, I had to hold off my wife from ordering a brand new one, so I'm really counting on this board to help keep our marriage tension on a low level. So anything you could do to speed this up would be great. So I don't know when this thing's coming. It better not be later than 22nd. I'm going to have some very negative feedback to send to this eBay guy. So there's number one. That's number two. That's the other thing that's been just a lingering issue. And every day that goes by that we don't have a working dryer, it's just such a, inconvenience. All right, so then I got, speaking of my house, it's almost 20 years old. We got a notice a few weeks ago from our homeowners association, which if you guys know how homeowners associations work, some people don't have them at all. Some people have some that are super strict, some are somewhere in the middle. But we have got one that's relatively strict. We pay every month. It's about $50 a month. That's $600 a year. You have no choice. You have to pay it if you live in where we live. And they make sure that everybody abides by the rules, that their houses meet all the specs and things, so you can't have houses that look like crap because they let everything go and lawns growing out of control, cars parked in the front yard, that kind of thing. So I got this warning saying, you have moss on your roof. Please take care of this. If you don't, within a certain amount of time, you could face fines. So I was like, crap. Okay, one more thing I take care of. So I actually posted a thing on Facebook. I said, hey, anybody got any good references for a moss removal company? I get a lot of people say, hey, yeah, a broom and a ladder. And I thought about doing it myself, but I looked in that roof, and there's some steep angles on our roof. Now, I'm a pretty resourceful guy, adventurous, I'd say even. But man, I don't mind doing hard work. But, so I'm sorry. I've heard stories of people falling off their roofs trying to put on Christmas lights and dying from it. I consider myself a rather somewhat fit, might even dare to say athletic for a guy my age. But even I don't feel comfortable being on that roof. Then one slip, ain't worth it. So I decided, I'm gonna see if I can get some legit references for some places. Then there's one came up, guy's phone number, sounded like a good one. This guy named Doug. So I call the guy. It's a 360 area code, which right away I'm thinking, okay, 360, that's not exactly in the neighborhood. 425 is where I'm at. 206 is Seattle. 360 means it's a little farther away. Well, this guy lives up in Bellingham, as it turns out. And Bellingham is almost close to the border between Washington and Canada. So I thought, oh, okay. Well, here's my address. It's pretty far. You sure is this worth it for you to come down to do this job? And he's like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. I can do it. I'm pretty slow right now. So, okay, all right, it's up to you. So here's my address. I took photos. He asked me some photos, so he'd have to come down and do a photo, a visual analysis. So I sent him these pictures, got all these different angles of the house so he knew what he was dealing with. Gave me an estimate. It was very competitive, a little less than a lot of the other places that I'd seen. It's like for a 500 something versus most of the places were charging like $8. So I said, okay, cool, let's do it. So that was scheduled for 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, the night before, he calls me and he says, so remember I was telling you, he told me that I play in a band? Well, this gig came up at the last minute that our label says we have to do. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to do the job tomorrow. But let me know if you have something next week. So okay, I said in my text, I said, wow. I said, I'm not happy about the last minute cancellation, but I understand. I used to be in a band myself, so I know how that goes. Let's do it for Wednesday this week. So he's like, cool. So I'm like, all right, we'll give him that one pass. So then it's Tuesday night. So I'm like thinking, okay, I don't want any more band gigs coming up. So I call him Tuesday or text him Tuesday night. And I asked him, so we all good for tomorrow? 8:00, he said, right? He goes, yes, I'll be there. So okay, cool. Wednesday morning, I get a text around 7:30 saying, oh, traffic's a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. It's showing I'm going to be there probably an hour later than I thought. So I said, okay, so 9:00. No problem. I'm here all day. Let me know when you get close. Another hour goes by. I get another text. He goes, I don't think this is going to work. It's just the travel is a little too long and probably dangerous for me to drive all that way and have to drive all the way back. And I said, dude, forget it. I'll just look elsewhere. But I'm like, did it take for you to figure out the morning of that the drive was going to be too long? You knew the mileage. You knew your situation. And yet he flakes on me, not just once, but the same day, sending me 2 different texts that he's going to be late, and then finally says he can't do it. My flake alert was reading high at that point. So now I'm working on another bid with another company. It's local, a little more established, but of course it's going to cost me closer to like $900. But at least I think it'll get done. But man, just those 3 things in the past month, I've been like very disappointed in these businesses. And they're all from different areas. I got big company, Microsoft, got this little dude from Bellingham, and then I got this eBay guy from California, all letting me down. So ties into the whole, Russell Wilson, Seahawks, Bobby Wagner thing. And obviously been, like many of you, been processing it now. It's been, can you believe it's already been a week and a half since the news broke? Tuesday of last week, since the bomb dropped. And, I think some days are easier, some days are not. Some days I'm kind of already like, yeah, it's fine. It's really the best thing, blah, blah, blah. Then you think back and reminisce. And then all of a sudden you kind of get, why? But, you know, I think what I've really kind of learned from all this was we all know, and everybody says, this is a business. And I said that in my little spoof of Russell Wilson's press conference parody that I did on Wednesday. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Actually, got some pretty good views on it because of the timing with the real announcement of his press conference. But it really is a business. And so when the only thing you can really become attached to is the team itself. Because, I was thinking about it in terms of my friend Mark Collins, who started Save Our Seahawks back in the 1990s, 96, when the owner Baring wanted to move the team to Los Angeles. And, Mark gave up a lot personally and financially to ensure that, at least from a grassroots perspective, that the team wasn't going to leave Seattle. Obviously, a lot of things had to happen. Paul Allen had to buy the team, but it took a group, massive community effort for that to work out. But I was thinking, Mama Blue, Mark, they've been fans since the very beginning. I can't even say that. I've been a fan of the Seahawks. Really didn't start following them until about 1980 was about when I started really kind of getting into the Seahawks. And so I was a couple years after, 2-3 years after the franchise was started. But I was thinking of all the people, who have been involved with the Seahawks, players, coaches, managers, even owners. None of those people are still attached to the Seahawks. They've either retired or, some have died, some relocated. But it's the fans who have stayed true this whole time. The team has stayed, almost moved, but stayed. And the only thing that's been consistent are the fans. So you have to kind of already know that coaches will leave, players that you fall in love with are going to leave, and even owners will sell to another owner at some point. Originally, it was Seahawks were owned by the Nordstrom family had it, and then Baring came in late 90s. They sold to him. Then Baring eventually sold to Paul Allen. So, there haven't been a lot, but there have been changes. And so, my point in saying this is that I think my own philosophy moving forward, my mistake was I allowed myself to get too emotionally attached to one player, Russell Wilson. And that's a dangerous thing. I think it was one of the few times I felt like this guy will be one of the few players who will be here for the entire career. I really believed that. I guess I just got locked in on that the first 3, 4, 5 years and just never imagined that would ever change. And I think because of that, it actually blinded me from being open to what signs were saying that this may be coming to an end. I refused to believe it because I was so wrapped up in the emotional tie and the long-term thought that he'd be here. And I didn't have this way with other players. I kind of knew that everybody else is going to be here for a short amount of time and then move on, either retire or move to other teams. And I no sweat off my back if that were to happen. Russ was the exception. Part of it was just obviously what he does, what he says, and all the things that he did in the community. I always kept thinking, why would he leave? He part owns the Sounders, and he opened a shop here, and he does Children's Hospital, and he's got a house here. And why would he leave Seattle? Well, we don't know the true bottom line reason because nobody's really saying it. But I think we have a pretty good idea that Russ really had a change of heart. He had other things that came up that he wanted, that it looked like it wasn't going to happen with the direction it was going. So the rest is playing out as it is. But I was having a talk yesterday with 80s Broncos fan Mike Lorraine, my business partner, who's probably listening to this maybe. We're talking about just the whole Russell Wilson, Broncos, Michael Arian was truly an 80s Broncos fan. He was reminding me of the fact that when he was a kid, he grew up, born in Colorado, so that's why Denver became his team. But he really loved the uniforms of the time back then. The the bright orange with the D, the light blue helmet with the D in the side. And then for him, where he lost his kind of loyalty to the team was when they changed their uniforms. They changed it, I can't remember exactly when. It was sometime in the, I think, early 90s, I think, before they won their Super Bowls. And Elway was still there. But that was kind of it. He really felt like the D on the side was the thing that he identified with. And when they changed that, he felt like they sort of betrayed a certain, allegiance to something that he really, connected to. And, so the Seahawks have gone through 2 uniform changes, really more if you look at the subtle differences, but drastic ones. They had the original ones from 76, 77, the first year. That stayed pretty much that way, that color scheme, the silver helmets with the kind of brighter blue, I think like a royal blue, which I'm hoping, not this coming season, but maybe 23, they'll actually bring those back. That would be awesome. That's one of those disappointing things. We'll never get to see Russell Wilson. Saw so many memes of him wearing the old school uniform colors. And I always look forward to seeing that day to take me back to my childhood, watching, my new modern day beloved quarterback in my uniforms that I grew up with. And sadly, that'll never happen, except on Madden maybe. So, but back to the uniform thing. But the thing that didn't really change much for the Seahawks is the helmet stayed the same. The color changed. The bird had an upgrade, but it was still essentially the same logo, right? Still Hawk's face on the side with its Native American design. They made it a little bit meaner and sleeker, but it really was not that different. And other teams have gone through similar uniform and logo changes. Some for the better, some for the worse. Can't think off the top of my head which are some of the worst. Tampa Bay, remember those uniforms? Oh, they were god awful back in the day. They had that kind of tangerine orange. It's almost like pastel orange and white. They're like basic creamsicles. And their helmets were white with a Buccaneers face, and he had like a knife in his mouth. I think that was the logo. I can't remember when they changed that one. It seemed like that was changed a long time ago. But that was a change for the better, colors and logo-wise. And then others haven't changed that much at all. Cowboys, Packers have been pretty much the same for a long time. Raiders haven't changed. Steelers haven't changed, although they do bring like these throwbacks. They're like, remember the Bumblebee uniforms? All right, anyway, going back to that. So what we were talking about, we got into the subject of Russ in general. And, I think we got into the subject of Russ wanting to, what was his reasons for leaving? Why Denver? And he says in his press conference, he wanted to go to a winner. And I think I mentioned this yesterday. I also posted on Twitter the last 6 years of the Broncos win-loss record. They've only had one winning season, and they've been pretty much 3rd or 4th place, maybe a 2nd place finish somewhere, but mostly losing records. So Russell Wilson calls himself a winner. He wants to just win. He wants to play for a winner. So clearly they're not a winner right now. I think what he wants to say is, I'm going to make the Broncos a winner. But here's the other question. Is that really true too? Is that really the ultimate goal? Because aside from the lone exception, Tom Brady is the one guy who's won the most, but he also didn't top the other number one list, which was highest paid quarterback. He's never been on the list of the highest paid quarterback. Whereas we just saw the Packers, Aaron Rodgers sign an extension, record-breaking $200 million extension for 4 years. Essentially $50 million a year, give or take, how they spread it out. But he did that deal, and Russ is right after him. He's pretty much a year behind whatever Aaron Rodgers does. Russell follows suit. So if A-Rod's making 50, Russ is going to go for 55, or at least equivalent of 50, whether he deserves it or not. And Denver's going to have to face that next year when the contract discussions go. It'll be much more interesting if the Broncos finish in 3rd or 4th place, and then they're sitting there with a 500 or worse record going, well, that first year didn't quite work out the way we thought. And now we got to top up paying this guy $50 million and hamstring our salary cap for a while. That's where Seahawks were at this point. And then I'm sure you saw the news with the Packers, right? Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams are like Wilson to Lockett. You just can't deny the connection. You can't imagine one without the other. Well, Davante Adams was franchise tagged by the Packers, and the Packers were told by Adams that I'm not going to play under the franchise tag, meaning that he wants a long-term deal. Well, that long-term deal never worked out. He ended up getting traded to the Raiders. Davante Adams is now with the Raiders, making his own record-breaking wide receiver money. He's making somewhere close to $30 million a year as a wide receiver. You know, the one thing about a quarterback, you can understand it, the quarterback on offense always touches the ball first. Almost every time the quarterback will touch the ball, with the exception of a wildcat direct snap to somebody else. The quarterback always touches the ball, and obviously it runs through him. The receivers, on the other hand, they will get the ball, if you're lucky, 30% of the time, maybe 50 if they're really airing it out. But, you know, that's why you still have running backs in the running game. So that's mega money. But the point being is that Aaron Rodgers supposedly knew, even though he knew that Davante Adams was going to be gone behind closed doors, he signed that deal anyway. And can they still win without Davante Adams? Certainly feels like it's going to be a lot tougher of a chore when you think of that duo now being separated. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is still a good quarterback, but that Davante Adams connection is something very special. So with Russ going to the Broncos, he's following the Rodgers. My goal, I think, number one, more than winning, is getting paid. They'll never say that, but the actions speak louder than words. And it goes kind of unquestioned because people just say, oh, well, they deserve it. Except when you bring up Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the lone exception to the whole get paid first and then look after the team second. But Russ, you know, I mean, unless the day comes where he says, well, you know what? I'm not going to ask for $50 million. I'm just going to ask for 40. Take a pay cut relative to Aaron Rodgers because I really want the Broncos to succeed. Well, if he does that, I'll be really pissed. Because the whole reason why he can't stay here is because the Seahawks and Russ probably knew that paying $50 million a year wasn't gonna work. I don't know if the Seahawks would have ponied up that money if Russ didn't express interest in leaving. Would the Seahawks still have traded him because they weren't going to pay him that money no matter what? But either way, something tells me that Russ's agent, Mark Rodgers, but his agent has the same last name as Aaron Rodgers. I will do what the other Rodgers do. But Mark Rodgers is Russell Wilson's, Russell Wilson is Mark Rodgers' only client. Now let that sink in for a second. A lot of these other agents have, like Scott Boras, he represents a bunch of different guys. And that could be good or bad depending on how you look at it. Obviously, they're making a ton of money because they're making a percentage of all these multiple $million salaries. But they also know that, well, if I got this guy over here, I'll make sure he's taken care of because he's worth this much. And this guy, maybe I'll let that one go. That's not as important. So he can kind of play with his assets. But play with his assets. That's funny. All of a sudden I got like 3 rocks in my shoe. I got to take this damn thing off. I'm still dealing with this cracked heel on my left foot. Of course, I can't blame anybody but myself on that one because I haven't done a very good job of putting lotion and other moisturizers on there. So I got to take the shoe off. So I will try to continue conversing with y'all while I do this. I just left the path area about to get back onto the where the street is. That's where the power lines are. And through the sidewalk. The rubber meets the road. All right, I get this dang rock out of my shoe. So Mark Rogers has Russell Wilson as his only client. So he lives and dies by the deals he makes for Russell Wilson. There's multiple pebbles in here. So he's gonna go for whatever he can, right? Because every deal predicates the next one. And I've learned also in business too, that when you negotiate, first of all, you never put your bottom line out there first. You always have to assume that the other party is going to try to talk you down. So you got to start with a number that's high and eventually land where you hope to land, hopefully higher than your bottom line. So the Seahawks have a number for every player that they have. And the player and his agent has a number that they have that they are willing to accept. In the case of DJ Reed, who went to the Jets for $11 million a year, apparently, we don't know what the Seahawks offered, but DJ Reed went on the record saying he felt disrespected by the Seahawks offer. Meaning, clearly, he was not being offered close to the 11 million. He was probably offered something below 10. I'm guessing in around the 8 or 9 amount. It's easy to say you're disrespected if somebody else pays the higher amount, right? If nobody else was shelling out 11 million and that was the highest deal, you wouldn't be disrespected. You're like, yeah, well, I guess that's the best deal. I'll have to take it and be happy with it. But when you have a higher suitor who wants you more than the other one, well, it's easy to sign the deal and then say the other person disrespected you. It's a shame that DJ Reed couldn't come back to the Seahawks because I really liked him. He was the second priority to me next to Quandre Diggs. But that's how, again, that's the business. But anyway, the point is, keep meandering about. So Russell Wilson says he wants to be a winner. He wants to play for a winner. And the Broncos aren't yet a winner. But I'm sure the way he interprets that is, once I come there, and then Sierra and I are now the king and queen of Broncos country, king and queen of Broncos country, they will become winners. That's a lot of expectation right there. But the main thing is, I don't know if winning truly is, as Mike and I discussed, is that really the goal, the ultimate goal? It seems to me getting paid is the top goal. Now, we don't know the reasons why Russ didn't want to go to these other teams like Washington, because apparently these deals that were being kicked around, which I was discounting, were really happening. The Washington football team, Washington Commanders, can get used to that. The Washington Commanders really did offer 3 first-round picks and a better trade package as far as the Seahawks were concerned. The problem is, or I just say the smart safeguard that agent Mark Rogers put in for Russell Wilson was the no-trade clause, so that Russ couldn't just be handed to a team he didn't want to go to. He wanted to be able to control his destiny no matter how bad things got during the course of his career, even with 2 years left on his contract. So he really held all the chips on that one. So in the end, he ends up, going to the team that, now who knows when he decided Denver was his place. We don't know if this was a year in the making, several months in the making, could have been years in the making that he's been thinking about and just more came to fruition. The timeline as to when this all came together, still, no one's really talking about it. But you wonder, is Aaron Rodgers, knowing that Davante Adams is not going to be there for him to throw to, is he committed to winning? Or is he just going to go, well, I got mine. Now you Packers, you guys figure it out. You guys figure out how to get me some weapons to throw to, because that's not my fault that Davante didn't stay. So, and Russ might be the same way. Like, yeah, I'm a winner. I'm going to make this team a winner. But you're still going to pay me as high as prices I'm going to demand. And he's going to demand it. He's got all the leverage on Denver to get paid the highest amount possible because they've already committed too much. It's the same thing that happened with Jamal Adams last year. We had already given up too much. Adams knew he could force the Seahawks to have to pay pretty much whatever he was asking because you don't give up multiple draft picks, especially first rounders, and not sign an extension. You have to do it. Otherwise, everybody is going to be pissed. You're going to have wasted all the capital you gave up for it. So you have to kind of do it. So they're stuck to have to do it. Now, I'm saying at this point, they're happy to do it. They don't feel stuck. They're eagerly awaiting to pay that amount, which is all the more reason why I hope it doesn't work out, because I want this thing to blow up in Denver's face. That's the salty part of me. But really, the more practical part is, if the as I said yesterday, if the Broncos reportedly this year will have a better draft pick in the first round next year. But yeah, it's which one is it? Is it winning or getting paid? Because I don't think you can really have both, because Tom Brady didn't take both. He took the wins and didn't take the money. I'm just more surprised that more quarterbacks don't follow that philosophy. Maybe because, I don't know, maybe he really is that good. Hate to say it, admitting the truth. But maybe he is that good that he knows how good he is, and that if he demanded the price to be paid as good as he is, that he knew the team around him wouldn't be as good. Does that make sense? So Russ, with his mindset, which nobody questions, he should be paid one of the highest salaries in the NFL. As soon as you do that, you are shackling your team's ability to do what you say you want to do, which is play for a winner. And some argue that's the reason why Seahawks couldn't get back to the Super Bowl after that, because pretty much after Super Bowl 49, which is what's the really tragic thing about that, is we could have had 2 Super Bowl rings during Russell Wilson's rookie window. When he was cheap, we had 2 Super Bowl rings in our grasp. You can't ask for a more perfect opportunity than that, because once he gets priced, and then you start paying all the other guys, all the defenders who also want to get paid, then you lose all the stuff that made you so great those first 2 years. That's the shame of it. We should have had 2, and then even if the rest of it didn't work out, you can just say, well, at least we got our 2 during the time when we were at our peak. And that window is only open for a certain amount of time. But a lot of it is because of the money. You need talent on your team, you need depth, you need multiple players and positions, and you can't pay them all. It's the salary cap magic. Somehow the Rams seem to, I don't know how they keep signing guys and spending money. It's like they're immune. They have some kind of immunity shield to the salary cap restrictions. Anyway, but it's interesting. So a few weeks ago, I think it was, I can't remember which show it was, but I had Sports Live in the ATL. David came on and joined my show, and he asked me just out of the blue, like, hey, this is before any of this trade stuff was going on for either team. How would you feel if Matt Ryan were to suddenly be your quarterback? You know, he was trying to force me to say the answer. And I think I eked one out. If I said, yeah, I wouldn't think it's terrible. All of a sudden now, there's a very real potential that a Matt Ryan trade to Seattle could actually happen. I'm not saying it's likely, but it could actually happen. Because now that the Falcons and the Saints are the 2 players in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, that clearly means Matt Ryan's time is looked at as being up. And now there's that potential, and since Seattle really has got nothing solid yet as far as a replacement for Russell Wilson, unless they really are all in on Drew Lock. And I'm not going to say I don't know enough about what Drew Lock has done to be able to feel like I know whether he's good or not. But based on the numbers I've seen, he's not that great. Matt Ryan is a good quarterback. He's old. He doesn't move. But he's a tall guy with a good arm still. Wouldn't that be crazy? And if Matt Ryan actually ended up going to Seattle, it wouldn't be the worst situation in the world. I wonder how much we'd have to give up to get him, though. But Sports Live in the ATL, David, the Falcons fan, he was actually already on that, at the time we were talking, he was already saying he planned to come up to watch the Seattle Seahawks versus the Falcons here in Seattle as a way to see the game in person. We'd have a chance to connect and hopefully watch the game together side by side at that game. But wouldn't that be bizarre, based on what we talked about at that time just being jokes, that he could come to Seattle to watch his Falcons play with Matt Ryan under center for the Seahawks? I would have thought if somebody told me that was the situation, potential situation, I'd say you're crazy. But then again, never thought Russ would play for the team we smacked in the one Super Bowl that we won, and a team that I had to despise through all those years of being in the AFC West. And I also never thought Richard Sherman would end up being a 49er back then. And all that has happened. So once again, bottom line is, it really is a bottom line business. So anytime you hear a player say, oh, it's for the fans, I love this team, it's because of the city. I mean, I imagine there are probably a few exceptions where some guys maybe didn't take the highest deal because they really didn't want to move or whatever. But I guess words of advice to myself as well as anybody else is, don't allow yourself to get too attached, because even if they say all the things that make you want to feel like, yeah, they truly do love me and the fans here in the city that I live in, they're not going to go anywhere. That's all true until it comes down to contract time. And at that point, all bets are off. Anyway, so got some volleyball tournaments with my girls this weekend. Vanessa, Saturday is tomorrow, Sophie's, Sunday is Vanessa's. I'm sure there will be other free agent news that breaks. I'll try to talk about it when they happen. But I am still working on, I have a song that I am writing that I will release hopefully next week. That's all about this whole Russell Wilson thing. Kind of it encompasses everything I've sort of talked about this past week. I would have had it done sooner, but I have real work stuff that I had to get done that I'm still trying to get done. So hopefully next week before we head to Spokane. That's my goal. All right, you guys enjoy the rest of your Blue Friday. Drop me a like and a sub if you haven't already. Feel free to comment here. I'd love to. I do read the comments and respond if I see some good ones. So know that your comment will be seen if you type it in here. And if it's worth responding to, I will. So feel free to do that. And you guys have a great day. We'll talk to y'all later. Go Seahawks.